How did we get here, Coach?
This, Charles Barkley made an interesting comment. He said this has been going on for years when he was a player on, and it has. The money has got, I'm sure players back in the day when you and I were playing basketball were offered, $1,000 or $2,000, and today now they're speaking of $100,000. So nothing's changed in the landscape, and we're not even dealing with college football. We're just talking basketball. So nothing's changed except it's gotten bigger. And now the sneaker companies have used universities like franchises. They basically franchise their product, whether it's Adidas, Nike, Under Armour. They buy these schools for hundreds of millions of dollars, and that's their franchise. So it's just gotten bigger, but nothing has changed.
But how did you get here, where you're fighting Louisville, you're not sure if you're ever going to coach again or certainly coach in college again?
Well, here's what happens. You and I talked off the record about the situation with the dormitory. But the University of Louisville jumped the gun because they had a new board of trustees who had no clue to what I am, what I'm about at all. The governor fired the board of trustees, all loyal University of Louisville people, brought in basically strangers to the University of Louisville, and they fired the president. They fired the athletic director. They told the president that if you don't resign, we will drag you through the mud. And then they fired me. And they wanted to clean house and start over. They're not University of Louisville people. So my staff knew that one single thing goes wrong, we're all out. And the fact that the U.S. Attorney of New York, of the Southern District of New York, used me in a complaint based on some self-serving comment by a guy who was up to no good. They couldn't conceive that University of Louisville would fire me, but that did more damage than they could have ever imagined by putting my name in a complaint based on a comment made by a guy who I hardly know. And that's the reason I was fired. Because of a comment that I was a big shot at Adidas and I could get this kid money.
Let's get into specifics here. So the FBI spent years on this case. You claim that you had no knowledge of the recruit Brian Bowen and his representatives receiving money, and there was a report of $100,000. So
right.
If that means the FBI got it wrong, in your opinion, and if that's the case, what else did the FBI get wrong with Louisville?
It's not the FBI now. The FBI, first you got to ask this question. What is the FBI in this day and age? With all these school shootings, the gun problems, the opioid addictions that we have, where 60,000 people are dying a day. The FBI are a skilled, trained group of people that do us a great service in this country. So you have to ask the question, what is the FBI involved in bringing down runners, assistant coaches in college basketball? That's the first question. So it's not the FBI. The FBI is under orders by the Southern District of New York to get right now they've got a bunch of assistant coaches who have been indicted. So my name was involved in a complaint, the same way that Jim Larinaga was involved in a complaint. An article came out yesterday.
The Miami head coach.
And his lawyer said it's fallen on deaf ears. We have done everything we can to convince U.S. attorneys that Coach Larinaga is not involved. It has fallen on deaf ears. We are not involved in any criminal activity whatsoever, and they won't give us the courtesy of admitting they were wrong, which they won't do. They're not going to admit they were wrong. You're just not a subject, but they're not going to tell you you're innocent, so you're never going to get exonerated of this.
But so you had no knowledge that anything was given to Brian Bowen or his representatives? There's no paper trail, there's nothing, no
Dan,
phone records, nothing.
Nothing. Let me say this, and this is probably the last show I'll ever do in my life. There's three things I want to say. First thing that happened, I got a hold of a guy I knew who's an ex-FBI agent who specializes in giving lie detector polygraphs. The first thing I did was had my lawyer call him to give me a polygraph. The first thing when this broke, he asked me two questions. One, did you have any knowledge that Adidas was doing anything involved in this case with Bowen? I said, absolutely not. Two, were you involved in the family in any way to give any money to Brian Bowen or his family? Absolutely not. I passed the lie detector. This is a man who specializes. This is not some lawyer that says, oh, yeah, you passed the test and doesn't show the evidence. This is a man who teaches polygraphs throughout America and is an ex-FBI agent, which I turned over to the prosecutors. That's one. Two, Dan, I've never given $5. If you ask me, my favorite player of all time, and I've coached in the pros a number of years, coached against Kareem, coached with Bird, Magic, all of them. My favorite player is Michael Jordan by far. If you said to me, if you give me a $500, went back in the day when I was at Kentucky, you could coach Michael Jordan, I'd say absolutely not. Love him. I wouldn't give $500, wouldn't give $5 to coach any player. Now, who knows that? Is that just me speaking college talk to clear my reputation? No. Every player I have coached, and nobody has contacted them whatsoever, any coached, over 30 of them, from Jeff Van Gundy to Billy Donovan to Rick Carlisle to Brett Brown of the 76ers to Frank Vogel of the Orlando Magic, will tell you he doesn't work that way. His practices are too tough, and he doesn't work that way. So we have come to this. I've had a few bad breaks because of it, so I'm not going to complain. My reputation is not going to be cleared. And I've had an interesting conversation with Mercury Morris, who today still fights. And I said, why are you still fighting? I said, a third of the people are dead that don't remember when you played. A third of the people weren't alive. And a third of the people don't care.
Mercury Morris, the former Dolphin running back who went to prison for drug
Yes, he said, because I'm fighting because I was never a supplier. Did I use drugs in the 80s with cocaine in Miami? Yes. But I never was a supplier. I got set up. I got 20 years. The supplier in the case got less time than me. And I was 2.5 years later, I was let out for a wrongful suit. But he said, I still fight because I was never a supplier.
For more Dan Patrick Show, tune to Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV or download the Dan Patrick Show app.